Trump and Biden face off in a disastrous presidential debate that needs some serious fact-checking. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Well, the Trump and Biden debate sure happened. Sadly, not on the Joe Rogan podcast. In many ways, the debate reminded me of the movie Alien vs. Predator. No matter who wins, we all lose. And just like Alien vs. Predator, the concept was better than the reality.
But you
I just want to make sure.
Joe, you're the
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class. I
give
got
you
rid
an
of
opp-
the
and when I
individual
finish,
mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse me,
opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of Obama.
comprehensive plan.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst
I
part of
didn't ask
Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris,
you're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part of
me.
Obama.
Chris Wallace wishes he was in Alien vs. Predator instead of the debate. Many things were said during the debate, and this may shock you, but not everything that was said was factually accurate. I know, hard to imagine, but it's almost as if each candidate was more concerned about making himself look good and the other person look bad than presenting actual solutions to the American people. Perhaps the biggest controversy to come from the debate was this: Trump declines to denounce white supremacy. Trump, again, refuses to explicitly condemn white supremacists. And Trump's refusal to condemn white supremacy fits a pattern of extremist rhetoric. But is that really true? Sounds like it's time once again for our segment, Wait, is that true? Presidential debate style. So let's run through some of the biggest claims of the debate and see if they're true. Starting with, was Joe Biden wearing an earpiece? There have been concerns that Joe Biden might not be as with it as he used to be.
If you could take care, if you were a quartermaster, you can sure and hell take care of running a, department store thing, where in the second floor of the ladies' department or whatever. You know what I mean?
Actually, Mr. Vice President, we do not know what you mean. And so before the debate, the Trump campaign had said it wanted a third-party group to inspect both candidates for earpieces. But according to a Trump campaign spokesman, Joe Biden's handlers agreed to a pre-debate inspection for electronic earpieces, but before the debate, abruptly reversed themselves and declined. Did that happen? It's hard to say. The Biden campaign did not directly address whether it had gone back on an agreement around the ear inspection, although they did say that, of course, Biden is not wearing an earpiece. And all this led to the post-debate accusation that Biden was wearing a wire during the debate. People point to moments like this when, zoom in, is that a wire or a fold in his shirt? Or this moment where Biden coughs and you see something on his wrist. Now, according to Reuters, it looks very much like the tip of a pen, pointing out that he was holding a pen during the debate. Reuters also suggests it could be a rosary he wears on his left wrist in honor of his late son, Beau Biden, which you can see here. But accusing a candidate of wearing a wire isn't new. In 2016, there were accusations that Hillary Clinton wore an earpiece. In 2012, it was Obama wearing an earpiece in his debate with Romney. Boy, pixelated images with arrows on them sure are convincing. And in 2004, George W. Bush's bulge stirred media rumors, according to the BBC. I never want to hear George W. Bush and bulge in the same sentence ever again. But seriously, what kind of loser needs someone smarter than them giving them all the answers through an earpiece all the time? What's that, Shelley? I know, right? Pathetic. Now, obviously, people flock to conspiracy theories. Not me. I'm too smart for that. Which is why, when Biden posted this image to Twitter mocking the accusations, I could see what was really happening. Joe Biden was promoting the same ice cream we saw in Nancy Pelosi's freezer, proving that the Democrats are part of an ice cream parlor deep state trying to make Americans lactose intolerant. Wake up, sheeple! Didn't you see the subliminal messages? But there were other moments of truthiness in the debate, which I'll get to after this short break. Welcome back. Another big focus of the U.S. presidential debate was the Supreme Court. There has been an ongoing debate about whether Trump should appoint a replacement for Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court before the election. For more on that, check out my recent episode about the battle for the Supreme Court. Trump has nominated Amy Coney Barrett, and during the debate, Biden said this:
that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional.
The Affordable Care Act is also sometimes called Obamacare. Now, this is significant because the Supreme Court will hear oral arguments for a case involving the Affordable Care Act a week after the election. And the Trump administration has been clear that it wants the Affordable Care Act ruled unconstitutional. However, according to an AP fact check that says false claims flooded the debate, that's not right. Barrett has been critical of the Obama-era law and the court decisions that have upheld it, but she has never said it's not constitutional. During the debate, Trump also talked about how many federal judges he had appointed, and claimed that it was because President Obama had left so many openings.
By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term, 300 judges. It's a record.
It is true that by the end of his first term, Trump will have appointed a huge number of federal judges and very possibly 3 Supreme Court justices. But what Trump said is misleading. The fact that there were so many vacancies was not a result of Obama being complacent. It was because the Senate at the time was firmly controlled by Republicans, Republicans who blocked a lot of Obama's nominations. Of the 71 people whom Obama nominated to the district courts and courts of appeals in 2015 and 2016, only 20 were voted on and confirmed. Over the last 4 years, Trump has had the advantage of a Republican-controlled Senate that helped push his nominations. And now, let's look at another big topic: healthcare. Healthcare is obviously important to voters, especially with the Affordable Care Act being called into question. But according to Trump, his healthcare policies have been a success. He cites cutting drug prices, particularly insulin.
I'll give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people. The cost, I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap.
So cheap, it's like water. I do love a nice cold can of insulin. Refreshing. It is true that some older Americans enrolled in Medicare would only have to pay $35 for a month's supply of insulin. But the federal government doesn't control the drug prices for people who don't have insurance or who get insurance through their employer, which is about 2/3 of the population. Overall, insulin prices have dropped, but that's mostly in response to the coronavirus. And honestly, healthcare is a lot more than just the price of insulin. Trump wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act. The pros and cons of Obamacare is a whole other episode. Maybe a whole dozen episodes. And while some say Trump has offered no alternative to Obamacare, that's not totally true either. Days before the debate, Trump issued an executive order on what, of course, he calls an America First healthcare plan. It promises coverage for Americans with pre-existing conditions and also asks for Congress to pass legislation by the end of the year to stop surprise billing, which would be great in the alternate reality where Congress can figure out how to work together and pass laws quickly. Healthcare also ties into the other big issue in the debate, the coronavirus, which I'll get to after this short break. And we're back, as long as YouTube hasn't demonetized us. It's time to talk about the coronavirus. I think we all knew the coronavirus was an important topic, but now that Trump tested positive for the coronavirus, it's a huge deal. The biggest deal. So big. The coronavirus came up in a number of ways throughout the presidential debate. For instance, the crowd sizes of Trump's rallies.
Are you not worried about the
we have
disease
a lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours' notice.
But it's not entirely true they had no problems. Tulsa County, Oklahoma, for instance. Thousands attended that rally. And the Tulsa health officials said the rally, as well as the protests against the rally, more than likely contributed to a spike in coronavirus cases, about 500 in the several days after the rally. But can you really trust health officials? Yes, that also came up, especially when they were talking about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
Well, look
serious
at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the opposite.
He did not say the opposite.
Well, that's the thing about the coronavirus. As we learn more, the science changes. Even by the end of February, the CDC was not recommending masks to prevent the coronavirus. What really stops the virus is washing your hands. Obviously, the CDC changed their tune on that. Then there's the whole issue of how many people have died globally, which Trump correctly pointed out, we don't actually know.
And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand.
But Trump also claimed if Biden was in charge, the U.S. death toll would be 2 million. Obviously, until CERN Labs manages to rip open a portal to the dimension where Biden ran and won in the 2016 election, we will have no idea what would have happened if Biden was at the helm. As for a coronavirus vaccine, Trump had this to say.
We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day.
Typically, something like vaccine distribution would be handled by the CDC, not the Pentagon. However, according to Politico, it will be a joint venture. But it's a little unclear what that means. The Department of Defense is handling all the logistics of getting the vaccines to the right place at the right time in the right condition. But according to a Pentagon spokesman, that doesn't mean the military itself will be distributing the vaccine, except for maybe in some remote places. The spokesman said, "Our best military assessment is that there is sufficient U.S. commercial transportation capacity to fully support vaccine distribution. There should be no need for a large commitment of DoD units or personnel to support the nationwide distribution of vaccines." So that doesn't sound like soldiers will be delivering 200,000 vaccines a day. And now, for the one all the media were talking about, what Trump did or didn't say about white supremacists, which I'll get to after this short break. Welcome back. Time to talk about Trump and white supremacists. Trump totally failed to condemn white supremacists. Or did he? I'm just going to play you this whole clip from the debate.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland.
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do
specifically
that, but
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what
Oh, really?
his
It's an idea.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well, then you know what? He's wrong.
We're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're
Everybody
moving.
gives you
Bat
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head, that's
administration.
not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is
administration.
Wow. It really is disgusting how in all these years, Trump has never condemned white supremacists. And you know why? Because as Mother Jones says, he is one. This was actually a question Chris Wallace asked Trump during the 2016 debate, and he failed to condemn white supremacists then, too. Here's the clip.
What are your views on the Ku Klux Klan and white supremacists?
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke. I've been doing it now for 2 weeks. You're probably about the 18th person that's asked me the question. It was very clear. That question was also talked about in the form of groups. I want to know, which groups are you talking about? You have to tell me which groups. Ultimately, he got to the Ku Klux Klan, which obviously I'm going to disavow.
Why can't he do it? Why can't he condemn white supremacists?
I rejected David Duke.
I spoke out forcefully against hatred, bigotry, and violence, and strongly condemned the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, and the KKK.
Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists.
Whatever. David Duke endorses Trump. And if a white supremacist endorses you, that obviously means you're a racist. What's that, Shelley? The white supremacist who organized the Charlottesville race riots endorses Joe Biden? Okay, but what about the Proud Boys? The Southern Poverty Law Center calls them a hate group. Let's take a look at some of that hate from one of its white supremacist leaders.
I will go out and say that the Proud Boys as a whole, I will say this on behalf of the entire national organization, denounce white supremacy.
What's that, Shelley? That was from a joint Black Lives Matter Proud Boys press conference? Anyway, that disgusting white supremacist, Enrique Tarrio, is also the leader of the grassroots group Latinos for Trump. Okay, this isn't working out for me. Let me switch gears here. Why hasn't Joe Biden called out Antifa?
Do you condemn Antifa?
Yes, I do. Violence, no matter who it is.
Okay, one off. Why hasn't he condemned the violent rioting that's been plaguing this country?
I said from the outset of the recent protests that there's no place for violence or destruction of property. Peaceful protesters should be protected, and arsonists and anarchists should be prosecuted. And local law enforcement can do that.
Oh, for the love of... Facts are making it really hard for me to hold extreme views. And all this nuance is scaring me. But I guess we don't need to worry, because the closer we get to the election, the less facts and nuance will matter to anyone. The good news is, no matter what happens over the next 4 weeks, whether or not there's another presidential debate, no matter what the candidates do, and no matter how the media reports on stuff, you've already decided who you're going to vote for. I wonder if CERN can open up a dimension that will allow us to fast forward until the election. And that's it for this episode of America Uncovered. Please support us by visiting patreon.com/America Uncovered and contributing $1 or more per episode. This show is funded mainly through direct viewer support. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.